A Super Bowl in Hollywood, made for Hollywood. The Ocean's 11 Rams, built brilliantly with like-minded stars to be a blockbuster hit. The Rams win the LA Super Bowl in dramatic fashion. You couldn't script it any better. Cooper Kupp caught the game-winning touchdown with 1:25 left because, of course, he did. And that was absolutely incredible. Cooper Kupp was absolutely amazing. When you look at what transpired down the stretch of this game, 14 plays, 79-yard drive, saw Cooper Kupp play his best when it mattered the most to stamp his MVP. Aaron Donald sealed the deal because that's who he is. That's what he does. Matthew Stafford came to LA to turn the Rams into a feature film worthy of all the awards, with the pressure all over him that it's going to be Super Bowl or bust. And I'm so happy for Matthew Stafford, winning a title after all those years languishing in Detroit. They made the trade because Jared Goff equaled wins, but not Super Bowl, not blockbuster hits. The Rams made it all about the Super Bowl with all their trades, and they were rewarded. Stafford in the ballgame started hot. Then the Odell Beckham Jr. injury threw a wrench into the plans. But Stafford was so tough, so clutch. And look at what he did throughout this entire postseason in the fourth quarter. This is who Matthew Stafford is. These are signature moments. This is where you cement the legacy. And Stafford did it in a Super Bowl where the run game for LA was non-existent. It's the ultimate validation for Les Snead and Sean McVay. Les brought in all the big names, went for the jugular, and he was unafraid. And I love Sean McVay, and he's a huge part of this. Coaches up the players brilliantly, connects with them. This is the whole key why it worked for the Rams. There's no ego involved. And it started giving up the 2 first-rounders a few years ago for Jalen Ramsey, and that was awesome and an easy first guess here on Time to Shine. Then Stafford. Von Miller was terrific. Odell had a great postseason. It's L.A. You got to win and win big to be relevant. And now there's going to be a Rams Super Bowl parade. Perfect Hollywood ending. But this was no accident. Brilliant plan, with the stars shining the brightest on the biggest stage. The Bengals had a great season, but last night stings. Since he had so many opportunities to win the Super Bowl and so many of the issues and why they lost, and credit the Rams most especially, they were the better team, the issues were self-induced. Final drive, 3rd and 1. Zach Taylor runs it with the backup running back? Are you kidding me? What the hell is this? Where was Joe Mixon? Where was Jamar Chase, T. Higgins? Marty Schottenheimer had a great line about how in crunch time you think players, not plays. You want the ball in the hands of your greats. This was offensive. So was the play of the offensive line. So how about some screens? And, these are first guesses. We talked about it in LA all last week. You knew the line was going to struggle going in, especially against the LA Rams defense. The Cincy offense just stalled. And I thought this drop here by Tyler Boyd was gigantic. It was a 3rd down. Boyd is so reliable. Didn't have a drop all year. Would have been a 1st down. Instead, it turns out to be a punt that set up the final long game-winning drive for the LA Rams. So that was just so disappointing if you're a Bengals fan. Joe Burrow is a superstar. He was let down last night by his coaches. You have to be buttoned up when you're the inferior team in a Super Bowl. The Bengals were leading throughout most of the fourth quarter in the biggest game. This will sting forever. Cooper Kupp was majestic, but Aaron Donald absolutely deserved the Super Bowl MVP last night. Every single time Aaron Donald is on a football field, he's the best player on it. Doesn't matter who else is there, he's the best player on the field. Last night, he was not going to be denied his elusive ring. It's worth remembering how dominant Joe Burrow is when it matters the most, and with that as a backdrop, I never thought Joe Burrow would lead the Bengals down the field for a game-tying field goal because, simply put, Aaron Donald wouldn't let it happen. A defensive tackle controlled the final drive. He engulfed Perrine. He looked like he was shot out of a cannon to wreck Burrow's last attempt. I was just obsessed with the sheer joy and jubilation, pointing at his ring finger, knowing he would finally get that jewelry. Aaron Donald owns the Super Bowl. The numbers on your screen, fantastic. The feel was even better. Donald looked absolutely possessed after some Bengals got in his face in the second half. Why would you poke the bear? You could feel the satisfaction from Aaron Donald after the game. And look, he didn't exactly deny the Rodney Harrison report that he's contemplating retirement, which to me is a huge shocker. I mean, Aaron Donald's thinking about stepping away? He's still at the top of his game. I need more. I want more. I want it to play forever because he's the greatest defensive player ever. And look at the accolades on the screen. This is not hyperbole. This is not an overreaction. I've literally been saying this for years, as you know, on Time to Shine. We've been ahead of the curve on this as a show. The resume is off the charts. Worst case scenario, he's on the Mount Rushmore of all-time defensive players with LT and Reggie White, but I've had him number one for a very long time. I had him number one way before he owned Super Bowl Sunday last night. He should have been the MVP. It's going to bother me forever. That should be part of his resume. Nobody was better or more valuable than Aaron Donald, which is the normal state of affairs. Needless to say, Odell Beckham Jr., brilliance for this Rams team. And honestly, the entire Odell narrative has changed. We said all last week that Odell was going to have a monster Super Bowl. We talked about the prop bet of Odell getting the first touchdown, and that hit last night. Odell played like a number one. And then he got hurt, and he couldn't play in the second half. And listen, Beckham's postseason, majestic. And think about Beckham's reputation, and we killed him for antics in New York and then in Cleveland. He played like a number one receiver with the Rams. That's a credit to Beckham, first and foremost. That's a credit to Cooper Kupp, credit to Sean McVay, to Matthew Stafford. Listen, I felt so terrible for Beckham because you knew when he got hurt that it was serious, and multiple reports today, torn ACL. Brutal, just brutal. It was a non-contact injury, and the way he crumpled to the ground with the knee, you knew that was going to be the case. Odell Beckham Jr. is now a champion. That'll be entrenched forever. He was dynamite this postseason for Los Angeles, dynamite in the first half of the Super Bowl, dynamite all postseason long. The narrative has officially changed forever when it comes to Odell Beckham Jr. And if you're a fan of the Cleveland Browns, you have to be sick to your stomach. Needless to say, Cooper Kupp just put together one of the greatest single seasons ever by a wide receiver. I would argue it is the greatest single season ever, regular season, postseason. Cooper Kupp was just absolutely tough, clutch, majestic on Super Bowl Sunday. I actually thought the best play he made on that final drive was the run on the 4th and 1 from the Rams 30, showing off his speed, his athleticism, his savvy. Great play call by Sean McVay. Look, this is an all-timer here. And you look at a single season in terms of the postseason, the only one who you could argue had better numbers, Larry Fitzgerald, and that year he didn't win a championship. You couple that with the accolades from the regular season, and listen, he was the Offensive Player of the Year. I voted for him for Offensive Player of the Year. He won the Triple Crown at the wide receiver position. This is an all-time performance at the wide receiver position. A true megastar, best receiver in the NFL. Still mesmerized by what he did on that final drive. Also, the leadership, checking the ego at the door, telling Odell on the phone to join him in LA, picking up the slack when Robert Woods got hurt. Man, I love Cooper Kupp. So happy for him. Needless to say, Matthew Stafford cemented his Hall of Fame legacy last night. And make no mistake, Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Famer, and I know you have some bitter Lions fans who are upset or some fuddy-duddies who want to see more. Matthew Stafford has been tough and clutch his entire career. No one noticed because he was playing for the rebuilding since 1957 Detroit Lions, who are a complete and utter historic clown show. I mean, look at what Matthew Stafford has done in his career. 42 game-winning drives. He had 3 this postseason alone. What he did in the fourth quarter this postseason, completing 68% of his passes, didn't throw an interception in the fourth quarter this entire postseason. Remember, didn't win a playoff game before this year. All about winning a championship or bust. He was clean and efficient, beating Arizona. And remember, season ended with a loss in the regular season against San Francisco. All the pressure's on him. So great against Arizona. So tough and clutch and dominant on the road in Tampa against the champs. Down double digits against San Francisco. Going into the fourth quarter, wins and then wins the Super Bowl like he did last night with that game-winning drive at the end. That right there is a Hall of Famer, and I'm so thrilled for my guy, Matthew Stafford. Needless to say, Joe Burrow and the Bengals will be back, but they'll never get this moment back, and that's what's bumming Joe Burrow out, because they had the lead for the vast majority of the second half last night, and that stinks. And I feel terrible for Joe Burrow. And look, the future is ridiculously bright, and they'll address the offensive line in the offseason when you look at the draft and free agency, and they have the cap room, and they have a galaxy of great players. This was not a fluke in any way, shape, or form. But of course, there's the I don't know quotient. I mean, the AFC is loaded with great quarterbacks and great teams, and the Bengals will not be the favorite next year in the AFC. Baltimore had a wild rash of injuries all season long, starting with J.K. Dobbins in the preseason. Bengals not a fluke. Bengals are special. Burrow's special. But it was all there for Cincinnati. That is going to sting forever if you're a Bengals fan. I feel terrible for my guy, Joe Burrow. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the bell for more videos.